When a couple from a dating show suddenly finds themselves in the same awards competition as Hollywood heavyweights, something very strange and very powerful is happening. Think about it. A few months ago, we were just arguing about Ace, Nic Olandria, Taylor, Cierra, and the whole Love Island Huda mess on Love Island USA. We were spamming votes in the app, debating every recoupling on Love Island Season 7, and asking if this was the wildest Love Island cast yet. And now, that same couple, Nic and Olandria, better known as Nicolandria, is going head-to-head with established, big-name celebrity couples in a Cosmopolitan competition for one of the most talked-about couples of 2025. The bracket graphics have all these longtime stars, and then this one little ship from Love Island USA, Season 7, Nicolandria, just sitting there like, hey, we're here too.
So how did Nic and Olandria go from "are they even real" to "wait, why are they beating our favorite movie stars in a public vote"? How did a connection that started on a villa daybed become the kind of story that Gabrielle Union is writing emotional tributes about on LinkedIn? We're going to break down exactly how Nic Olandria went from second-place finalists on a reality dating show to mainstream contenders the entertainment industry can't ignore.
Before we dive in, do me one tiny favor. If you love keeping up with Ace, Nicolandria, Taylor, Cierra, all the Love Island USA Season 7 chaos, hit subscribe like you're voting in the app with 5 seconds left on the clock. Don't overthink it. Just tap it before the producers send you home. All right, let's rewind to the villa.
When Nic and Olandria first showed up on Love Island Season 7, nobody had any idea they were about to become the couple dragging an entire fandom into a new era. At first, they were just part of the madness. You had Ace walking around like the villa's unofficial mayor. You had Taylor giving the most confusing signals anyone has seen on a Love Island season in a while. Cierra was quietly building her own fan base. Huda was out here turning every challenge, especially that heart rate challenge, into a full cinematic event. And in the middle of that storm was Olandria, calm, observant, a little guarded, and Nic, who honestly looked like he'd just been dropped into a social experiment he wasn't fully prepared for. Their story wasn't some instant fireworks on day one situation. It was messy, slow, and at times it barely looked romantic at all. There were moments where it felt like they might end up just being really loyal friends who have each other's backs in the villa, and that's it. But then, as the days went on, something weird started to happen. Every time Nic and Olandria ended up in the same conversation, fans noticed the tone shift. The way he looked at her was different. The way she listened to him was different. Even when they weren't officially together, you could feel the tension building in the background. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast, Ace, Taylor, Cierra, Huda, kept creating headline moments of their own. Arguments, heart rate drama, call-outs. That one challenge that basically turned the entire villa into a comment section war in real time. And yet, through all of that, more and more people online started quietly rooting for one specific outcome. Okay, but what if Nic and Olandria actually try this? By the time the final weeks rolled around, the question wasn't just who's going to win the show. It was, are we watching the beginning of something that might actually outlive the villa? And that's exactly what happened. But the villa ending was just the trailer. The real story started after the credits.
Most reality TV couples get a burst of attention when the show ends, and then everyone moves on to the next season, the next cast, the next messy situation. That's not what happened with Nicolandria. The minute the finale aired, social media basically split into two camps. People arguing about the official winners, and people who were like, okay, but Nicolandria is my real endgame. The edits started immediately. Fan cams, TikToks, long threads on Twitter/X explaining why Nic and Olandria's story hit different. Clips from the villa got recut over and over. The challenge moments, the little looks, the inside jokes, the small bits of vulnerability that maybe you didn't even notice on the first watch. Suddenly, they weren't just Nic and Olandria from Love Island. They were a narrative, a symbol, the main characters of an entire fandom.
So let's talk about this Cosmopolitan moment, because this is where the story stops being just fandom is powerful and turns into, wait a second, the industry is paying attention. Cosmopolitan didn't just do one article on Nic and Olandria and call it a day. They kept featuring them in 2025 content, putting them in lists, interviews, and most importantly, dropping them into fan voting competitions where the opponents were not other islanders. They were people with blockbuster movies, chart-topping albums, and championship rings. Imagine opening your phone and seeing a voting bracket. On one side, a couple that's been on red carpets for years. On the other side, Nic and Olandria, who just last year were standing in a kitchen arguing about who left a glass on the counter in the Love Island USA villa. And then the votes come in, and the reality TV couple is winning.
That's the part that has people stunned. It's not just that they're nominated, it's that every time the fandom gets a chance, they're putting up numbers that would make any marketing team jealous. Comment sections under Cosmo's posts turning into mini Nicolandria rallies. People saying, it has to be them, nobody else even comes close. Now, to be clear, awards like this are popularity contests, not the Oscars. But the symbolism is huge. A couple from a summer dating show going up against people with studios, labels, and networks behind them, and still topping the charts when it comes to public votes.
That tells brands something. It tells producers something. It tells other networks something. It says, these two don't just have viewers, they have voters. And that's why the next part of the story is so important, because the fandom wasn't the only group going all in. The press started acting like a fan account too.
You know a couple is hitting a different level when fans call themselves a Nicolandria stan account. But you know it's really serious when media outlets start doing it. That's exactly what happened when Elite Daily posted about them and straight up joked that they're basically a hashtag Nicolandria stan account at this point. That isn't normal. Publications might cover reality TV couples, they might recap their drama, but they don't usually announce to the world, yeah, we're standing this ship. That's crossing the line from objective coverage into we're emotionally invested. At the same time, other outlets were giving Olandria serious, long-form coverage, not just, look what she wore to this event, but in-depth interviews and profiles.
She's been signed to a major digital talent agency under UTA, fronting beauty and fashion campaigns, getting called part of a Gen Z class of creators who define trends and influence millions by Cosmopolitan. There are magazine covers, power lists, campaign shoots, all of them sending the same message. This is not just the girl from Love Island who had good outfits. This is someone brands and editors see as a long-term investment. And Nic isn't just standing in the background. When they appeared together in campaigns, swimwear, food collabs, lifestyle content, it's clear that companies understand the value of Nicolandria as a unit. They're not only betting on her or only on him, they're betting on the story.
At this point in the timeline, you already have a fandom that will vote for them in anything, media that openly supports them, brands that see them as valuable beyond the villa. And then, out of nowhere, one of Hollywood's most respected stars logs on to LinkedIn and makes everything feel even more surreal.
Quick halftime break. If you're still watching right now, you are officially deeper into Nicolandria lore than half the people arguing on Twitter. So go ahead and hit subscribe before Cosmopolitan gives them an award for most loyal fan base and forgets to invite us to the party. All right, now let's talk about Gabrielle Union.
Gabrielle Union is not the kind of person who just randomly posts a reality TV alum for clout. We're talking about someone with decades in film and television, best-selling books, production credits, a career built on being selective about what she attaches her name to. So when fans noticed that her Woman Crush Wednesday shout-out on LinkedIn was dedicated to Olandria Carthen, people rightfully lost it. This wasn't a quick, she's pretty, go follow her kind of post. Gabrielle wrote about Olandria as someone who walks into a moment and turns it into a movement. Didn't just ride post-Love Island attention, but used it to build something intentional. Represents her university and community every time she gets a platform. She talked about how Olandria is shaping her brand with purpose, integrity, and her own vision, not just chasing random clout or saying yes to anything that pays.
That's a very different tone from normal reality TV coverage. That's language people usually reserve for artists, activists, or long-time industry veterans. To see it applied to someone who, not long ago, was sitting on a beanbag in the villa, wondering who was going to pick whom at the next recoupling, that's huge. And Olandria's reaction made it even better. She shared how stunned and grateful she was, basically saying, "Somebody pinch me." It wasn't jaded or, "Yeah, of course this is happening." It was pure, genuine shock that someone she grew up watching would take the time to see her so clearly. For fans, that post felt like validation, like the universe saying, "You weren't crazy for investing in this girl, you were right." And it sent a quiet, powerful signal through the industry. If Gabrielle Union is paying attention, other people should probably start paying attention too. But Gabrielle isn't the only person who's spoken about Olandria in a way that makes you understand why all of this is happening. Some of the most revealing comments have actually come from people who met her in the villa.
You can always tell a lot about someone by how the people around them talk when the cameras are gone. In interviews and podcast clips that fans have been sharing, Zach has talked about his experience meeting Olandria in Casa like it was intimidating in the best way. He's admitted that he usually doesn't get nervous talking to women, but with Olandria, there was something different. She felt poised, grounded, and hard to read in a way that made him step up his own energy.
That's not the way guys usually talk about a fling from a dating show. That's the way you talk about someone who carries herself like she already knows where she's going. Even Nicolandria has, in different interviews and live moments, hinted that he was nervous around her for weeks, that there was just something about her presence that made him feel like he had to show up as his best self, even before either of them knew what their post-show life would look like. Then you have someone like Taylor, who gave early interviews where he wondered out loud if Nicolandria and Oculin would struggle to bring full romance into their connection once the villa pressure was gone.
Fast forward, and now that same connection is winning public votes, getting serious coverage, inspiring heartfelt posts from established stars. In other words, even the skeptics unintentionally helped build the narrative. Every "I'm not sure they're real" comment made their current success feel even more like a plot twist. And remember, there have also been interviews, like Aces, where people implied that the relationship wasn't real or that production pushed them together. But here's the thing. No matter what anyone says in a podcast, you can't fake the long game.
You can't fake months of consistent branding, a fan base that keeps showing up, major outlets choosing to line up behind you, someone like Gabrielle Union taking the time to study your journey and speak on it. At some point, it stops being about what happened in the villa and starts being about what you did with the opportunity once you left. And that is where Nicolandria is rewriting the script.
In most seasons of any dating show, the pattern is painfully predictable. The couple leaves the villa. They do a round of interviews. They get a fast fashion collab, a discount code, maybe a club appearance tour. And then the momentum fades. A new season starts. The internet moves on. Reality TV often puts people in a box. You're fun, but not serious. You're relevant, but only for a summer. Nic and Olandria are blowing that box up.
Look at where they are now, competing in Cosmopolitan run polls against celebrity couples with years of industry backing, being praised in detailed tributes by legendary performers, appearing in campaigns and on covers that signal long-term potential, not 15 minutes energy.
having major outlets outright admit they're basically fans. That changes the conversation about what a Love Island USA couple can be. Suddenly, it's not just who wins the finale, it's who can build something sustainable, intentional, and respected after the finale.
And honestly, it also changes what producers might do in the future. If one couple from Love Island Season 7 can cross into Hollywood's lane this way, networks and brands will be watching closely. Which couples truly connect with audiences? Which ones feel like a story that can continue beyond the villa? Who's building something meaningful with their influence instead of just chasing quick checks? Nicolandria isn't just popular. They're a case study. And speaking of the future, that Cosmopolitan competition might just be the beginning.
Let's play this out. The final Cosmo announcement drops. Nic and Olandria officially win their category. What happens next? First, there's the obvious wave. More articles recapping how a couple from Love Island USA ended up beating out established celebrity couples in a public vote. More brand managers asking, so, how much does it cost to put these two in our next campaign? More casting directors quietly creeping on their socials, trying to figure out if there's potential for hosting gigs, red carpet coverage, or even acting roles. But beyond all that, the biggest shift might be in how fans see them. Because winning something like that doesn't just look good on a resume. It wraps their entire journey, from villa to Cosmo bracket, into a very clean, satisfying narrative. They went on a dating show. People questioned them. They built a following anyway. The media came around. A Hollywood veteran praised them. Then they walked into a mainstream competition and walked out with a win. That's the kind of story fandoms never get tired of telling.
Of course, with bigger visibility comes more pressure. Every move gets analyzed. Every brand deal gets judged. Every quiet week turns into, are they still together? Speculation. But here's the thing. Whether or not they win every single award, Nic and Olandria have already crossed a line a lot of reality TV couples never reach. They're not just from Love Island anymore. They're part of a bigger conversation about what these shows can launch. And now, I want to hear from you.
So what do you think? Are Nic and Olandria, Nicolandria, truly breaking into a new lane where a couple from Love Island USA Season 7 can stand next to Hollywood names and actually hold their own? Or is this just a golden chapter that we'll look back on as that wild time when a reality TV ship almost took over the industry? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, are you still voting in every poll? Do you think they'll win the Cosmopolitan competition? And what's the next move you'd love to see from them? If you made it this far, you are officially part of the most loyal corner of this fandom. So hit subscribe before the algorithm decides we're not compatible and recouples you with some random cooking channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.